There we go. Have we got audio now? Might help if you remember to turn things on. There we go. Thanks, Jason. Have we got audio? Can you hear me now? Woohoo! Let me know if the music that I've got playing is too loud. Anyway, so I was saying I need to assemble another one of these large compound 1 models. I'd made some changes to it, so before we cut any more kits, I need to make sure that my changes are okay and good to go out. And I thought I'd have a little bit of a ramble here to talk about, a couple of things that I'd been thinking about. The COVID hasn't been wonderful for us. It wasn't too bad last year when everything kicked off. There were a lot of people at home and things were not too bad. But it's had a fairly marked impact on our retailers and on shows and conventions. And I just, got to thinking, how can I, future-proof the studio here, given I'm not a 3D designer. We don't make CAD models. Let's get out of here. You don't need to see my bald head. I do want to look at getting into, SDLs and all that sort of stuff for 3D printing. That it's becoming huge, and eventually, I will be printed out of the market. So at some stage, I do need to take that into consideration. But in the meantime, I've been thinking about different ways in which I can, increase or improve our revenue. Some of you may know that I had to let Scott and my brother go. I couldn't afford to keep them on full time. So how can I, make sure that, I still have a job? And that got me to thinking about Patreon. And I struggled with this, and I've been thinking about it for probably a year, about how I can incorporate Patreon into what I do. Now, we're not the typical sort of stuff that happens on Patreon that you see all the time now with miniatures and all that sort of stuff. Here is the next, 20 models this month sort of stuff. I can't really do that because, I manufacture a wooden product, and I actually manufacture a physical product. Shipping a physical product out all over the world is not going to be, sustainable. How do I get this bin over this side? So I can't really do that sort of stuff. But there are some tangible benefits that I can add to Patreon. And as I was thinking about those sorts of things, it led me towards, looking at the option of opening a makerspace. I had someone come into the studio once to pick up their order, and I was buzzing out some bases on my scroll saw. And, they had a bit of a tour around the studio. We had a bit of a chat, and they had said, man, you've got all the cool tools here. This kit, the large kits, the large compounds, the sprues are split up into sections. So you can see that there's a scored line here. So I know that all these pieces here belong to the roof. all these pieces belong to the first floor, and I'm only going to pop out the parts that I need. Anyway, they said that you've got all the cool toys here, Viv. You know, have you ever thought about, you know, having like a club or a membership, or, you know, having some sort of maker space where people can come in and use, you know, all your cool tools? And so I've been thinking about that in terms of, that's ground floor, somehow looking at the option for opening up my warehouse. You know, the lasers here aren't running constantly. My 3D printers rarely get used because, you know, they're just a massive pain in the ass to stuff around with. I'm not, you know, the most patient person, and tinkering with machines that should just work is annoying. You know, my Form 2 machine from Form Labs, that's a resin printer, it prints flawlessly, perfectly every time, but it's super expensive to use. You know, it costs $8,000 here in Australia. A litre of resin costs $350. The trays in and the tanks, they're also consumable. They cost about $250. It's not a cheap printer to use, but it works perfectly, flawlessly, every time. Scott's Photon, that's here at the moment, massive pain in the ass. Never works, constantly fiddling with it. Oh, there's a buzzing on the microphone, is there? I wonder what that could be. Sorry, the microphone case was open. Is that better? Let's see if that clears it up. I had the battery compartment open. Let me know if that clears it up. If it doesn't, then it's something else that we need to look into. Oh, the joys. And so the 3D print room doesn't get used. I have a whole resin and metal casting. That's better. Woo-hoo-hoo! Thank you. I have a whole resin casting room and a metal casting room with a spin caster down there. And I've got hundreds of miniatures that I need. Oh yeah, of course, here we go. Let's get rid of that. Let's turn that off. Hi, sweetheart, if you're watching, phone me later on. There's a whole, you know, casting room down the back that never gets used. You know, I've got all the pressure pots and vacuum chambers and, like I said, the spin caster and all this other sort of cool stuff. Every bench tool you could imagine, you know, drill presses, bench, you know, everything. And, you know, I can only use so much of it at one specific point in time. And given things are a little quiet here in the studio, I'm only in and out every now and then. So, like I said, you know, things aren't getting used all the time. They're just sitting here, which to me just seems like a massive waste. There obviously are a whole bunch of things that, these are all the pieces I need. There obviously are a whole bunch of considerations when I'm talking about opening up my warehouse to, you know, not public use. You know, I've been doing a little research on maker spaces and how they operate and all that sort of stuff. And there obviously are different sorts of considerations that I need to think about. Most of these tabula rasa kits, certainly the newer ones, the older ones probably not, but the newer ones all go together in a grid pattern. So all of these parts will go in first, then all these parts will slot on top. So you just need to sort them out. And the easiest way to sort them out is to find the top and bottom. That's the bottom. And look at the edge here. Which way is this thing going? This is the edge of the wall. Find all the pieces that have this part, the tab, at the bottom. And so here's a piece. This is a top piece with a doorway. You can see it's got a cutout here and the tab is at the top. That slots down over, so that will keep that separate. There obviously are a lot of things that need to be considered. But I think it would be a great opportunity for people to be able to come in and, you know, mess about. Or, well, not mess about. Obviously, you know, there'll be training involved and you won't be able to use anything unless you've had, you know, your training courses and safety courses and all that sort of stuff. But I think it would be a good opportunity for people to come and use tools that just aren't necessarily commonly available to people. So all of these parts that have the tabs at the top or a cutout like this go in second. So let's do all the other pieces first. And, you know, not only does that obviously help with my revenue, but it also allows, which way is this building going? That's the entrance. That's this wall here. What? Something is obviously already wrong. Do I need to get my own instructions out? Oh yeah, that's that wall there. Not only does it help with increasing revenue and future-proofing Knights of Dice, it is a I just think something cool to have, not just for people here in Melbourne, but for me also. There's that. We're missing one wall somewhere. Missing a wall. This one. Well, let's have a look at this chat here. What's going on in chat? So people talking about the microphones buzzing. Fixed that when the battery container was open. Walkabout Game says, hi Viv, how you going? Thanks for tuning in. I don't know how often I'll do live streams. Okay, like I said before in my previous live stream, these will probably just be ad hoc. I would like to be somewhat consistent, but that's going to be difficult. All right, so that's all our pieces. So Walkabout Game says, that reminds me, I should sell my spin casters that are in storage. When I first started Knights of Dice, before I had all the laser cutters and everything, I bought the spin caster because I thought I'd get into, sculpting and manufacturing miniatures. It is something that I still want to do, yet like most people, say, oh, I'd like to do that, or I'd love to be able to do that. Or when you hear a musician play, me and my daughter are learning piano at the moment. And my mother and father-in-law and my wife bought me an electric keyboard a couple of years ago for Christmas, and you hear someone play music and go, oh, I wish I could play music. And I constantly see things pop up on Facebook, mostly from all my art friends, all my artists and stuff, saying, you can, but you've just got to do it. You've got to practice, you've got to do it, and you will be able to do it, but you've got to practice. You can't just want to have something and there you go. And I never really, got around to doing that. Here's all my pieces in here. Now I'll put in all my pieces this way and it'll be done. At least the ground floor. And so the spin caster, it gets used every now and then, not a huge amount, but obviously, it's there. How? Why does this not fit on here? I'm an idiot. I'm an idiot. All right, so we've found one problem. So this is why whenever we make a change to a kit, it needs to be reassembled. Even if that change is super minor. For example, I took off 12 millimeters off of one side of the building because when I originally designed this kit, it was way too big. It was bigger than all our other kits. You had to force it into our packing boxes. I don't know why I made it so big. I just obviously wasn't paying attention. And now that we've sold all the kits that are on the shelf, it's time to redo it. So I trimmed off 12 millimeters. But this piece which is going on here, let's switch to this camera here. This piece that's going on here, I trimmed 12 millimeters off of the wrong side. So now it doesn't go in here. It's supposed to go in here, but you can see this tab here doesn't line up with the slot here. And we've got this massive hole in the wall. So there's the first problem. Let's come back down. So the spin caster just sits there, but it'd be a great opportunity to teach people about casting, to teach people about how that process works. I swear. What is going on? All right. There's some other fairly serious problems happening here. How is this possible? How is this piece still too long? You can see here, let's come back. Again, I seem to have missed a piece. All of this is done in SketchUp. In theory, it should be absolutely perfect. So anyway, I've been thinking about, that. Opening up the studio a couple of times a week to, a select group of, members or makers who can come in here, in between certain times and, use all of my cool stuff that I've got here in the studio to do things. Okay, so there's problems. Let's see, does this piece fit in here? Okay, that might make a difference. Why would I design this kit so you couldn't assemble it incorrectly? Maker Labs are how I got into 3D printing. Well, I saw something pop up the other day. What the hell, man? I didn't think this kit could... You can see how I'm having to flip walls and stuff around here. This is why we dry fit things. I thought when I designed this kit, I designed it so that the walls weren't symmetrical and you could only have to assemble them one way. But clearly, I've managed to screw something up fairly significantly. I got the wrong walls in the wrong side. See, these tabs are all the same size and in the same position. But you can see the cutouts are in different places. Normally, I would make one of these tabs a certain size, so you knew it could only go somewhere on the base plate that it would work in. But because these pieces are the same size with different cutouts in them, but the tabs are in the same place and on the base layer, you can put either wall this way, or swap them over and put the walls this way or this way. And these walls need to line up with these other walls here. Which leads me to, designing kits. I had someone send me a message the other day saying, it'd be great, Viv, if you could, do videos on how you guys use SketchUp to make your kits. There we go. That's all in the right way now. And so I thought, there's a couple of ways that I can go about doing that. I've spoken to Scott about this in the past when he was here, and he was like, man, you can't do that, and, show people all our secrets and stuff. And, well, there's no real secrets, right? Yes, we try to make sure that, and I think we've been a little bit innovative since we started 5 years ago in how some things are done, and we've noticed other MDF manufacturers have adopted some of the techniques that we use for manufacturing our kits. Does this fit in there now? No, of course it doesn't, because the wall is still the wrong size and the tabs are in the wrong fucking spot. Then I'm like, it doesn't really matter, man. Whilst, most people don't have access to laser cutters, it'd still be an interesting, topic to take people through. So I've been thinking, how can I, so this wall's too long. This wall should go in here, but it's too long. All right, we need a pen. This one. I'm going to make some notes on the pieces. So this is ground floor. Check width. We'll just put a little arrow this way. So I can check that now against the digital piece versus the part that's on the laser cutting file. And then this piece here, ground floor. Check tabs. because this piece is the right width to fit in here. It's just that the tabs and stuff are in the wrong spot. Check tabs and wall joints and wall joints. So I thought it'd be an interesting, video to take people through, how we design a model. And I had someone else in a different, so that wall section would go in there, then we'd have this bit would go in there, and then our stairs, this piece would go in there, and we'd get some stringers. So when we do our stairs on most tabularizer kits, we use a fairly common building technique. We have a stringer that goes up inside the wall, and then all the stairs just slot on top of the stringer. All right, so ground floor, aside from those two issues, is okay. I thought it would, be an interesting video to take people through. Now, my interests vary tremendously. I had someone comment in one of my videos. I think I did something at home or something. I had some miniatures in the background on my shelf, and they had said, it'd be great to, hear your input on how you go about designing kits. What is your inspiration, and how does your miniature collection influence what you design? Now, we've never, from the very beginning, been, this is my hobby, this is my passion, this is my love. And I never started this business, the laser cutting side of it, with the intention of, making stuff that really wasn't of interest to me. So we've never made a proper range for 40K, aside from the stuff that we released last year or, recently, the Terminus Australis, the Cypher Dynasty, and the Invictus range. For 5 years, we never had anything specifically built for those games because I don't play 40K. Now, a businessman, which I clearly am not, would say, manufacture products for the market. Well, that's great fun, but, it's not great fun. That's all well and good, but at the end of the day, it's not a great deal of fun when you're having to design and make stuff that you really don't have any personal interest in it. So when it comes to designing and making models, it's heavily, heavily influenced by what we like. A couple of years ago, there was, a couple of different game companies doing their samurai stuff in feudal Japan. There's a few games now out for it. And every manufacturer I could find or would come across on Facebook or whatever was doing feudal Japanese stuff. And I was like, man, we should jump on this bandwagon, we should jump on this bandwagon. But we did nothing about it because neither of us at that time, Scott and I, had any interest, despite the fact that I've got a fairly reasonable collection of samurais, in gaming in that period. So we didn't do anything and therefore, missed out on the bandwagon. Okay, so these are all first floor parts. These are roof parts, so we'll pop out the first floor stuff. So when it comes to designing models and taking you through something in SketchUp, how I design models, etc., obviously that's going to be influenced by what I'm interested in. But again, it was another, interesting idea. We don't need to worry about stringers. I know the stairs work fine. Didn't change those. It'd be interesting. Let's get back. So Michael asks, Viv, do you have or thought about resin printing? I have a couple of resin printers. I've got a Form 1 Plus and a Form 2, both from Formlabs. And Scott's Photon S from Anycubic is here in the studio at the moment. I did mention briefly before that the Formlabs printers are incredible. They print flawlessly, perfectly every time. It will automatically level its bed. It will automatically do everything. It is quite literally press print and it will fucking print whatever you send to it 99% of the time without problem. Scott's Photon S from Anycubic is a massive pain in the ass to use. It needs to be fiddled with. You're constantly, this is like when we first started, we had that cheap $3,500 Chinese laser cutter. I'd spend 40% of my time, maybe even more, fiddling with that machine just to get it to do what it's supposed to do. When I spent, 90 grand on the machines from Trotec, they work perfectly, flawlessly, every time. Obviously, unless the beds come out of alignment or, mirror's not clean or lenses aren't clean, or then there are the operational conditions. But from just a do what you're supposed to do perspective, all of the cheap shit I've ever used is exactly that, cheap shit that you need to fiddle with. And from a commercial perspective, I don't have time to be fiddling with machines. I need them to do what they're supposed to do every time they do it. Or I need to be able to know why it hasn't done that so I can fix it. Now, a lot of the cheap 3D printers are, try this, check this, fiddle with that, play with this, 403 million different, we're missing parts. Have I got all the sprues here? Reasons why the machine might not be doing what it's supposed to be doing. And I don't have time from a commercial perspective to be messing around with that sort of stuff. So I have thought about 3D printing. I use our Form 2 here in the studio for primarily printing miniature masters, which we then mold and cast. And I only do that at the moment for a select few people. It's not a service that I typically offer to many people, and that's mostly because I just don't have the time to spend, or I haven't allocated or allowed for the time to spend to do that. There should be a door piece here somewhere. How are their parts missing? First floor. Because they're over here. So I have thought about resin printing, but from the perspective of miniatures really only. I can sculpt in ZBrush. I haven't sculpted for a couple of years now, and every time I get back into the mood to do it, I fire up ZBrush and I'm like, fuck, how the hell does this program work again? So it is something that I do want to spend more time on. And it's just a matter of making allowances for that as we move forward. Walkabout Game says, I have not sculpted in 5 years now. I'm looking at teaching myself 3D sculpting. Well, this is exactly what I'm saying. When I started Knights of Dice, I did several courses on ZBrush. I sculpted several miniatures. Some of them I printed out and they're in the cabinet behind me over there. And that was about it. Once you go from the printing component to molding and casting, there's a vulcanizing step in there. And at that stage, I couldn't find a printable medium that could be vulcanized easily. There was always a middle step, and you'll see that every now and then, especially if you follow smaller manufacturers. They'll talk about resin masters. So most 3D printing resins aren't capable of withstanding vulcanizing conditions. It's 4,000 pounds of pressure and anywhere up to 160, 168, 170 degrees Celsius of heat. Those resins just crumble or flatten or break. Or obviously there's resins now that are different, and there's different sorts of materials that you can use for making your molds. Specifically, there's some silicon molds out there that are low temp vulcanizing. They vulcanize at around 60 degrees. So the conditions there are a little bit more ideal for some of the 3D printing resins. There's a process, right? And when I hit that process wall, I was like, all right, got distracted by 50 other things, and before you know what's going on, it's been a year, and I'm like, fuck, I must get back to doing that. We need that bit there. So yes, the resin printing and the sculpting are two things that I need to get back into. Weird mic noise again. All right, so let's see if that Let's see if that fixes up the mic's issues. Sorry about that, weird mic noise. Wonder how much of that we didn't actually get to listen to. Nate's Miniature says, "G'day Viv." G'day mate, how's things going? Everything is not too bad. There's lots of things I could complain about, but you know, what's the point, right? I'm a very fortunate person and life is very good right now. So I'm all right. And then Jason says there's a weird mic noise again. Okay, well, hopefully we've fixed that up. Those were new batteries. I don't know why this thing complained about them, but there we go. Roman says, "Hey there, man. Will there be any Wild West kits on KOD in the future?" This is a funny thing, right? Because both Scott and I are super into Wild West. And at the very beginning of this whole malarkey, it was what we first started doing. We started making a range of Wild West stuff. And then, you know, one of my friends phoned me and said, "Hey Viv, there's this new game called Batman coming out. You know, I heard you got some laser cutters. Can you guys make some buildings for it?" And we were like, fucking shift tack, you know. And all of a sudden, you know, we're doing Century City, which, you know, was super popular. It's what launched us onto the scene. Okay, so first floor is working fine. I didn't change the roof, but let's assemble it anyway. And so we never got around to finishing those models. I did, funnily enough, try to have a look on the server for them a couple of months ago, but you know, they've disappeared off into the, you know, the digital ether. And I do come back to it from time to time. It is a period or a genre that I've got a lot of miniatures for. And you know, at our gaming club, there's always the talk of, you know, we should run a Wild West campaign. And like I'm assuming in most gaming circles or gaming clubs, someone will mention Necromunda or Mordheim or Wild West, and everyone's like, "Fuck yeah, you know, we should play it, we should play it," and then nothing ends up happening, because you know, there's a lot of work involved in running those sorts of campaigns, and somebody's got to run it, right? So at the moment, I would very much like to do some Wild West. Hey, here's an idea. Maybe that's what we can do together via, you know, as I was talking about before, if you missed it, you know, I was talking about, you know, showing people the process of, you know, going from concept to, you know, SketchUp, then through to Illustrator, Adobe Illustrator. So we do all our design work digitally in SketchUp. Then we take and flatten all those components and bring them into Illustrator. And then in Illustrator, we lay up, add sprue points, arrange, do all that whole Tetris sort of stuff, and end up with a line diagram. That line diagram is then printed to Job Control, which is the proprietary software that operates the Trotec lasers. And then from there, we laser cut that line drawing file. Maybe, you know, this could be a good opportunity to do the Wild West stuff. Where does this, oh, that roof goes on there. To do the Wild West stuff together. Maybe. Okay. But Jason says, does that mean we get more Middle Earth stuff? I'm not sure in reference to what that is referring to. I've rambled about a whole bunch of different sorts of things, and I don't remember half of the things I talk about. But yes, I am right now, and I've been spending evenings over the last couple of weeks sorting out all our acrylics. We've got a range of tokens on the website which are all junk. The artwork is crap. They're all old, and you know, they're not complete sets and stuff. And it's 403 million different tokens for bolt action because everybody wants their bolt action army or their specific unit with, you know, their emblem or sigil or whatever on it. So we've got loads of bolt action stuff on there. But in terms of fixing up the token ranges, I've standardized 11 different token shapes. And now I'm just going through all of the acrylic down the back, sorting out all the colors, making sure that, you know, we've got all of that stuff good to go. And then we'll be able to offer a proper complete sets of tokens for pretty much any game and allow people to have, you know, their own choice of tokens. You know, over the years, I can't count how many times people have said to me, "Hey Viv, can you do custom tokens like Litco do?" And I'm like, yeah, we can do it. You know, send me a message, and you know, we'll do little custom jobs. But in terms of making that easy and accessible for people, then I've never done anything about it until recently. So in terms of more Middle Earth stuff, I've got several models to expand out on the City of Ilaria range. There's a walkway, bridge sections. I started to look at the city walls from the Nusayeen range, which have all the snake motifs and stuff on them, and convert those over to that Minas Tirith or look that the City of Ilaria buildings have. I don't know why these cameras keep shifting focus. They shouldn't. All right, so yes, there will be more Middle Earth stuff coming. This might be in reference to what I enjoy doing, and that's probably Middle Earth. There will be more Middle Earth stuff going. I've probably got 15, and some people will chuckle when they hear this, Rohan-esque sort of buildings, and I have had those for probably 2 years. And it's just a matter of, getting around to finishing them off. What else have we got over in chat? Solvik says, oh, super cool to catch you live. This is my first time ever. Hello, everyone. I don't do it very often. It is something that I'd like to do. In fact, I had a dream last night where I had a stream. I came in the morning into the studio and had a stream, and I remember typing on the computer in the dream the title of the we finished here on the bench top. The dream was the title started with EML and then the subject, every morning live. Well, I'd come into the studio, I'd do a quick live stream about what happened yesterday, what's the plans for today, and it was crazy. It's not something I do a lot of. I certainly want to do a lot more of it, but because I had to build this model, I've got to cut some to send out to one of our retailers in Europe, and I thought I better just make sure that the kit works fine before I go shipping it out. The fucking kit doesn't work fine, so I'm glad I checked it. It is part of our process, our tick off the check boxes thing. Which I'm normally not very good at doing unless it comes to, when I fiddle with a kit. Then you need to make sure that it works properly. So I need to make a couple of small changes to this kit. It's fairly straightforward and easy. Everything else works fine. Then we can do a couple of production runs of this and ship that order out to Europe. So it's not something I do a lot of, and I do want to do more of. Nate's Miniature says, I enjoy ZBrush. When I don't use ZBrush often, I tend to lose some knowledge and have to re-educate myself. It is one of those programs that is so robust, and for what we need it to be able to do, it's generally overkill. We don't need so much of what is in ZBrush. You could get away with ZBrush Lite. I think it's called ZBrush Lite. I don't know if they still do Sculptress, but ZBrush Lite for what we do would be perfectly fine. ZBrush just has so much in it, and I know you can simplify the interface and make your own. What is that? One second. Sorry, thought I heard a fire alarm for a second. The machines aren't doing anything. It is one of those programs that's just, too robust. That, it can be intimidating when you haven't used it for a while and you come back to it and you forget about it. Sovik said, I had been doing some 3D printing, but not being able to walk much currently. The printer is hard to work with, but I do really like it and I can't wait to do more. 3D printing is like mold making and casting. Every time I put a print on, we've got a bunch of different FDM printers and a couple of different types of resin printers. And every time a print comes out, whether it comes out of one of the resin printers or an FDM printer, it's kind of like, you get this little giggle feeling. Ooh, and it's the same when you pop out a piece out of a mold. It doesn't matter how many times you've demolded that part, like the bumper cars, they're part of our Century City waterfront range. Every time I'm casting bumper cars and I pop out that resin bit, I'm like, fucking, ooh, another little resin car. It's this little giddy feeling that's just so good. So Solix also says the mic seems to be okay. Yeah, I don't know what the deal with that was. They were brand new batteries, but obviously it didn't like them. So let's take those batteries and stick them in the bin. Rob said, I would love some Tudor style medieval buildings from KOD. You might have heard me mention that before. I've got a whole bunch of Rohan type buildings. And if Scott ever watches this, he'll laugh himself. We have a whole bunch of Tudor style MDF buildings, which just haven't been finished. They either need to be cut or they are finished, and I never got around to laying up production plates or finishing them off or releasing them. There's lists and lists. This was another thing I thought about in Patreon, just segueing slightly here, was, we use Trello for overall management of products through concept, design, manufacturing, and release. And we have a board, it's called the incubator. And in the incubator are all the lists of all the models that we want to work on or currently are working on. And I was thinking, one of the pledge or tier levels from Patreon would give you access to that Trello board. I'm talking about rigging my studio up with 16 surveillance cameras because you can see what I'm doing. Why not just show you the inner workings of, my stupid, crazy mind, and you can discover how long goes between some things having been worked on and 90% completed to forget about that fucking shit. Let's get on with this whole brand new thing that's going to take 3 months. And you can have a look at that Trello board and you can see all of this stuff that's there. How does it affect me really, other than allowing you to have input on what I'm doing? And I installed a vote plugin that allows you to vote on all of those cards in those Trello lists. We want this, we want this, we want this, we want this. And I can look at those boards and go, okay, well, this one's got 23 votes, this one's got 2. I might be interested in doing that one, but it kind of makes sense to do the one that's got 23 votes, etc., etc. So yes, I've got a whole bunch of Tudor buildings, intact and ruined, that I need to just come back to at some stage. So James Browning says, I was glad to see that you popped into the Tabletop Minions Sunday stream about MDF buildings. Oh, is that the one from, what's his name? Grey Beard, Uncle Adam, or whatever his name is? Is his channel called Tabletop Minions? It's something, I can't remember. Yeah, I do pop in every now and then. Whenever I see the term MDF anywhere, I'm like, ooh, what's this guy going to be talking about? And all of that stuff. I don't know where people are fucking getting their MDF from. I've never sprayed an MDF building with PVA, watered down PVA. I've never put shellac on a single building. I've never done anything other than take a regular can of flat black spray paint and spray a model. And we've painted thousands of them. I don't know why people, maybe that's just our MDF. Our MDF is Australian made. It's made here from the pine fields in Victoria. Maybe it's different in the US. Maybe it's different in Europe. Maybe it does soak in the paint. But that base layer is there to do that. So you've got something to paint on top of. I don't know. Every time an MDF discussion comes up, it drives me batty. This is why I have no hair, because I've been pulling it out every time I see an MDF and priming discussion come up. Spray it black, paint it. It's fucking that easy. Roman says, oh yeah, Doco's about the design process. Sounds cool. And Jason says, yes, please, to Roham buildings. I would like to do stuff. I'm sort of in two minds between, just doing a live stream and streaming it live. And, we can design a building together. I'll fish through, a whole bunch of the stuff on Incubator or whatever, or we can come up with our own idea. I have a terrain inspirations folder on Facebook. I don't know how many people save posts on Facebook, but you can save a post to your own personal private folders and create collections of stuff. And so over the years, I've got on Facebook a massive collection of terrain inspiration where I'm like, oh, that's cool. I'd like to build that. Oh, that's cool. That would make a cool MDF model, or, whatever. It all goes in the terrain inspiration, saved list folder, whatever. And we could have a look through that and pick something. Michael Brower asks, Viv, are you going to be in the studio for a while? Need to talk to you about a custom design I sent you a few weeks ago. I don't know what it is, Michael, but I probably chatted at length with you about it. And then, my ADD was like, yep, okay, now what's we doing over there? And I got over there and I said, what are we doing over there? And I floated around and floated around and floated around. I will be here for pretty much the whole day. I need to head off. Normally I finish up at 6, but I've got to head off about 5 to pick up my daughter from after school care because my wife is in meetings with the other teachers from her college. So I'll be here until 5. Feel free to give me a call once the stream is done. Do you guys have a retail dealer in the States? Says Crispin. Yes, we do. We've just shipped off 180 kilograms of MDF to Noble Knight. That left yesterday. So Noble Knight, in wherever they are, look them up, Noble Knight. They're our most consistent supplier in the US, our most consistent retailer. We do have, half a dozen on the books, but they just order higgledy-piggledy. But Noble Knight orders from us fairly regularly. Campaign Torrentes, I'm glad to have caught this inaugural episode of Every Morning Live. Yeah. We'll see. It might not be too difficult. Everything is here, aside from making sure that my mic packs and stuff are working fine. To just come in, go to YouTube, change the title, press, the start recording here in OBS, and or start streaming, and have a quick stream. It could only be 5 minutes or 10 minutes, rather than these sorts of things that turn into big long rambles. I do need to go off and cut these kits so we can ship them out to Europe. So yeah, Noble Knight in the US stock our stuff. So JR says, do you do hot wire jigs? It is, I've made lots of stuff for myself. A lot of those things never get released. And people will come into the studio and ask me, oh, how did you do that? Oh, fucking I used this. You should sell those on the website, Viv. Oh yeah, maybe one day. So I don't have any hot wire jigs on the website. I've used them for my own projects, but it's not something that I've put up. Because I don't normally do, like the hot wire cutter is somewhere around we've got a couple of them around the place. Oh yeah, I took the Proxon home the other night. I don't do a lot of it, but the more I do of things, the more likely there are for these sorts of things to appear on the website. This comes back to what I was talking about earlier, in case you missed it, where, I put things online, or we make things that, I'm interested in using. And whilst I might not be interested in using those things, there could be 50 other people who are. So right now I don't have any hot wire jigs on the website. Solvix says, I go through sci-fi buildings. I'm going through a sci-fi buildings thing right now. Those tall buildings. And this is part of my issue. I'm such a typical gamer that, I float around between so many different things. And those things can be triggered by books or rule books or TV shows or whatever. Like, I've been heavily into Middle-earth, trying to narrow my focus down to just a couple of games for ages. But something happened maybe 6 weeks ago or 8 weeks ago. I don't know what it was. I think COVID happened, and then I couldn't go to an event. And after that, just things have waned a little bit. I got back into moderns. I've been reading the Force on Force rulebook. I'm going to be releasing in the 2 months or so, a how to play Force on Force from the very beginning, starting with just a handful of figures and the very basic rules, all the way through about a dozen different games we go through, where you'll end up with full armor, air mobile support, off-table assets, and all that sort of stuff. And then I was watching something to do with World War II just a couple of nights ago, and I was like, oh, where are my Germans? Where are my Australians? I got to fish out those British. Things just jump around all over the place. I do go through periods of sci-fi stuff, and I've been collecting, all different sorts of bits and pieces. In fact, I wanted to go out today. It's hard rubbish in my local area. And, I don't know if you have hard rubbish where you are, but, you can put out stuff on the sidewalk, and the council sends their trucks around during specific dates and takes away all your hard rubbish, fridges, couches, old furniture and chairs and all shit people don't want. Chuck it out on the street. The council comes past, takes it all away. That happens twice a year. And right now is a great time to go out and find lots of cool little bits for scratch building or doing up MDF buildings. Little components off of stuff. There's so many chairs out there that have like those little rubber protectors or plastic protectors on the legs. Pull all of those off. There are lovely little round like tank or a cap, or, you know, add some extra pieces to it, and, you know, you've got a, you know, a detailing component. And there's so much of that sort of stuff out there at the moment that I thought I'd go for a wander, shoot a bit of video, and, you know, take a bunch of that crap. JR just saw that pop up, says Greeblies, yeah. JR says, hello from Melbourne. Hello from Melbourne. Solvix then goes on to say, I follow your painting tips since I started MDF, never had issues. I'm just not great at painting. Well, look, Solvix, a painted MDF building is better than a not painted MDF building. Even a very simple paint job. Now, give me half a second. I'll just go grab one. You can still hear me. Now, I'll just go grab one of these over here. These are from the Cypher Dynasty range. Let's grab this thing. Just as an example of a super simple, you don't need to spend hours painting everything. Let's get some crap out of the way. Let's get onto this view here. I don't know if you'll be able to see, but this building here, I did a whole, I don't know if the colors, can we come up from the top down? What does the color look like from the top down? These were just sprayed with 3 different colors of green, MTN 94 spray paints, and then dry brushed with like a lime green sort of dry brush. And, you know, they work perfectly fine for just some simple terrain. No amazing techniques or anything, you know, just, you know, super quick and simple. I did a tutorial on that. I didn't finish, you know, filming some last parts or whatever. I was talking about this the other day when I uploaded my rant video. I've got 17 different project folders with a whole bunch of different sorts of tutorials. But then I'm like, I don't know if it's good enough. That's too simple to put on YouTube. Well, I need to edit those and get them on YouTube. Now it says I would totally buy a set of MDF hot wire jigs for pillars. Well, and you know, there's that mob from Shifting Lands. Are they called Shifting Lands? Shifting Scenics? Shifting Lands. I think it's Shifting Lands. They do some really cool jigs. And, you know, every time I see that, I'm like, somebody already does that, you know. But then I've got to remember, we live on an island at the arse end of the world that, you know, some of those things just we can't get here. Logan Grimner. Hello from Melbourne, Florida. Melbourne, Florida. I grew up in Adelaide. Adelaide's in South Australia. It's the capital of South Australia. And my wife and I went to South America for our honeymoon. And I think somewhere in Peru, I think, there's a place called Adelaide, which is super interesting. Hello, Melbourne, Florida. Rob says, maybe you need someone that's role is to come in and get that last 10% done on all your outstanding projects. Yeah, that used to be Scott. That did stop after a while. It's like, I'm tired of finishing off your projects, Viv. Do your own fucking instructions, finish the project, and, you know, stop starting new stuff. Guy says, what's your favorite piece? Do you have one that you are most proud of and one you don't? Well, it's, in terms of our terrain, you know, anything that looks good, like this archway portal from the Cypher Dynasty set, anything that looks good is designed by Scott. And anything that looks like you got halfway through it and couldn't be bothered finishing it, well, this is designed intentionally to be like this, is done by me. So, do I have a favorite piece? It's so hard to choose because some of the, you know, I don't have anything prepared, but there's so many good bits. There's so many good bits. The Suresh buildings in the Mirrors of Tolan range, the merchant house is a really, really nice kit. So much of the City of Ilaria stuff. You know, I made this the other night when I was sitting down in my room and I thought, you know, we drink so many cans of Coke and Fanta and stuff that, you know, we quickly whipped up, you know, I quickly knocked together like this little platform sort of thing for Coke cans. why is that camera continuing to do that? It's just, a little base and, 6 soda cans, 6 drink cans, and a bunch of little walkways and walls and stuff. And, it's got that cool computer on the top from one of the Terminus Australis from the Invictus range. That comes on the comms tower. All those sorts of things. Do I have a favorite? Not really. It's flavor of the month. It depends on what I'm looking at. Do I have one that we are not proud of? Not really. I'm always really conscious of the fact that I need to be confident and proud or happy about what we've designed in order for it to be released. Which is why we've got a folder full of 50 models that have never been released. Because I don't get the feeling from them that I would be happy. People, there's so many things that happen all the time. Like all of this crap, right? Let's come top down. All of this stuff that comes out of the laser bed, this falls through the honeycomb mesh into the bottom of the laser, and then we scoop it all out, chuck it all out, and it goes. Lots of people have said to us, you should collect all of that and sell little bags of rubble, like scrap and waste, and I never have. I've collected boxes and boxes and boxes of it. But I've never have because it doesn't feel right to me selling scrap or rubbish. If you come into the studio, I'll happily give you bags full of it. But should I put it online and sell it when I consider it rubbish? I don't know. If I put it online and give it away, I don't know. There's lots of little things that result in me saying, don't do anything about that. No. And so do I have a model that I'm not proud of? Not really. Because everything that we've ever released has gone through so many, checks and balances to make sure that, I'm happy with it. Now says, Necrons, yeah! I've got in Necrons from the Indomitus box set that I need to sit down and paint. Whereabouts are we with this? Fuck, we've almost been streaming for an hour. I need to finish painting those Necrons. In fact, I need to start painting them. I've undercoated them black. I want to do a very quick, simple paint job on those. And then I've got those for putting on the shelf with the rest of my 40k stuff that's never going to get used. He goes on to say, I'm in the middle of building a Half-Life 2 Citadel. Built my Necron-themed building for 40k, complete with hanging cables. Citadel itself is an oversized Toblerone. I'm sure it's going to look amazing, man. I'd rather buy in Australia, as I know that the standards of products are, in my opinion, are better than most. Also, shipping costs are a little nicer. Yeah. This comes back to the whole MDF sort of issue. I don't know why this discussion seems to happen all the time, everywhere. How do I prepare my model for painting? Same way you do your miniatures. Glue it together, spray it with some black paint, and fucking paint it. Don't need to do anything else. Perhaps unless you're buying your models from, I don't know. I don't know what the deal is. It comes up all the time. Where were we? Michael agreed to JR's comment about our higher standards and postage. Obviously, shipping stuff out of Australia sucks balls. It's just so expensive. All right, let's get through down to the end of here. JR says, "Where's the studio at? I'll come grab a bag of some rubble. Also, you could grind that garbage up. Then you have sawdust. You could make dye and make flock. I buy these things here. I'll go grab one. I'm not going to grind up MDF. MDF has some nasty chemicals in it that you don't want to be putting anywhere near your lungs. Chuck it in the bin. It's the only best place for it. Obviously, it's an inert. A lot of MDF we use MDF, which is classed as E0. It has a minuscule amount of formaldehyde in it. But there's a bunch of different grades of MDF, E1, E2, E3, etc. And the quantity of formaldehyde in them varies. And we use E0 because we are burning our MDF and we're laser cutting it. And when you laser cut MDF, it releases gases. And part of that gas is the formaldehyde that's contained within the glue polymers that bind all the sawdust together. So glue it to your models and paint it and you'll be perfectly fine, but don't fucking start sanding it and grinding it up. So I buy massive sacks of this stuff here, and there's videos on our channel. This is sawdust flour. It's super fine sawdust, and that's what I use to make my flocks. The studio JR is in Heidelberg West. Address is on our website and on Facebook. We're at 24 Percy Street up in Heidelberg West. We are not open all the time at the moment. I'm in and out, so best to phone me. My mobile number is listed on the website. We don't use a landline anymore because Optus are a pack of... We don't have a landline anymore. So phone me on my mobile or shoot me a message just to make sure that I'm here whenever you want to swing past. You'd be most welcome. Walkabout Game says, I just used black primer and paint my MDF building. My next MDF kits will be Pacific Huts for my Vietnam games. I just bought a whole load of Vietnam stuff from Empress. I got carried away. They had, the other day, put up their, starter packs sort of thing. I've been interested in it for a long time. A lot of the miniatures I have are moderns. And I just like to know, I've watched Empress, slowly improve that range over time. And it's gotten to the point where, there's enough on there. Whilst the Anzacs range is relatively limited at the moment, they're still working on that apparently. There's enough on there for the USMCs, the Marine Corps, and the whatever the Vietnamese are called, I'm forgetting now. Forgotten. Having a blank. Vien or something, I can't remember. Anyway, they had some starter deals up, bundle deals, and I was like, yep, get that. Oh, now I've got to add everything else that's not included in the bundle. And fairly significant amount of money later, hopefully we've got some figures on the way from England soon. They are a cool range. They're sitting up on the top shelf up there. They still need to be finished up. That's the Pacific range. That has 9 different models in it, or 10 different models or so. Jar says an industrial grinder, not like throw it in your kitchen blender. Yeah, sure. There are a bunch of things that could happen around here that, from a commercial perspective, it either requires some fairly significant pieces of equipment, which I'm running out of space for. We have the inside space here in the warehouse is 360 square meters, I think. The whole block, including the driveways and the courtyard at the back, is 420 square meters or something. I don't know, 480, I don't know, I can't remember. But there just never seems to be enough space. There are lots of things I'd love to do. Paul Hicks told me more is coming out, including Anzacs. Yeah, they put up a post yesterday, I think it was, or the day before, talking about a whole bunch of stuff that they're planning on releasing. 265 models in that range so far. It's incredible. It's incredible. Anyway, there we go. USMC deal is my 50th birthday present to myself. Yes! Well, happy birthday. I got that deal, and as well as everything else that wasn't included in that deal. But I've got a lot of stuff that I need to paint. Anyway, there is me out. I just quickly needed to assemble that large compound 1 just to make sure that there wasn't any problems. And, as we saw, during the build of this and my ramble during that build, there are a couple of issues, so I'll fix those up. Then we can get this back out into production and ship out those kits. So there's 2 walls that need to be checked. And, I've got those pieces here. Ground floor, check the tabs and the wall joints, and the ground floor, check the width. So I'll go off and do those now. I've also got to make changes to the large compound number 2, because that's also a little bit too big for the standard sheet size or packing boxes. Excuse me, so I'll fix those up. And see how we go. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Thanks for letting me know about the mic issues. I'll keep an eye on that and make sure that, we can try and keep the technical issues to a minimum. All right, what's the time? It's 10 to 1. I'm gonna go make a coffee, finish off this kit, get that out into production, then we can pack up that kit and send it out to Europe. If you are looking for a retailer in your area, on our website there's a store finder. You can go to the store finder and put in your location or have a browse around the world and see where all our retailers are. Some of those are way more active than others. So have a look there, send them a message saying, what have you got? Order more stuff from Knights of Dice. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. I'll catch you all next time. Take care. Where's the button and my mouse? How do I get out of here again? There you go.